Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Isaac in Sri Lanka podcast through the eyes of a trendsetter. We're back with our fourth episode today, and just to remind you once again, this podcast is possible because of the proud efforts of the national showcasing team of Isaac in Sri Lanka. And today we have yet another banger of an episode, and we have something very special and very intriguing for all our listeners. And the topic that we're going to be discussing today is change starts in your thoughts. And we really want to bring out how a change in lifestyle, a change in mindset can happen when you start thinking about this in actuality and in your thoughts. And for that, I'm joined here by an exceptional guest speaker, a person who would really resonate with this idea, a person who will really resonate with transformative behaviors and thoughts. And he is none other than Mr. Fahad Farooq, who is the international trainer and certified transformative coach at fahadfarooq.com. And I'll be a moderator for today, Arfan Nazar, and I am the current national director for incoming global talent of Isaac Sri Lanka. Fahad, it is really a privilege to have you here with us on board on this podcast, and I'm really looking forward to an amazing conversation on how change can actually begin with thoughts and how you actually take consistent and constructive actions towards creating. Fahad, it's really nice and amazing. And as a personal fan who has been part of your sessions and has really been motivated by you, it's really nice to share this space with you today. Thank you. Welcome aboard.
Thank you for having me, Arfan. Thank you for that introduction. I'm excited to be talking to you today.
Perfect. All right. So Fahad, let's begin with my first question. So my first question is, you are known by everybody as a person who transforms other people to discover themselves. And you are someone who has built a successful brand around yourself. You've created an aura around you, and especially amongst the audience that you work with, as a person who inspires people to think about being better. And when we look back at your past and you as a person now, I want to know, like, when people look at Fahad Farooq, they see Fahad Farooq, all right, he's the guy who inspires, he's the guy who motivates, he's the guy who talks about transformation. But what was Fahad Farooq as a child, and what kind of led this journey? And how did that curiosity as a child enable you to become the person you are today? And how did it align this? Because I'm pretty sure, like, no one is born and they think that, okay, I'm going to be a transformative coach and I want to impact people's lives. But how did that happen with you? I'm really curious to know that, because I'm not sure if a lot of attention has been given to your childhood, but we would really love to have this space to really talk about that.
First, I need to say, Arfan, that is a wonderful question because I've never been asked that before. So thank you for asking me that question. You wouldn't believe me if I told you that as a kid, not even as a kid, up until I was about 23, 24, I was crazy shy, man. I was one of those kids who didn't have many friends, who was just, super shy to talk to people, had a lot of social anxiety, and I still do sometimes. And for me, I used to create other worlds in my head as an escape, right? As you can see from my background. So the cartoons and the superheroes, that was the sort of world I escaped into, because I could be somebody else there, right? I could be whatever those characters were in my head. And that was the sort of start for me in that word you used, curiosity. Mm-hmm. And I started to question everything, right? As a kid, I was, how kids are like super irritating. They're asking me why? I was like 10 times more of that. And I was constantly asking questions in terms of, from the, like, why are we doing the things that the world say we're supposed to be doing? And my most profound question at the time constantly was, I used to question God a lot. I used to question religion a lot. Mm-hmm. And naturally, so the people around you, they provide answers as much as they can. And then afterwards, they refer you to somebody else, and then they provide answers as much as they can. And it always comes to this point where more often than not in Sri Lanka, people say, that's enough. You're not supposed to question. Don't ask so many questions. You're not supposed to question. You're just supposed to believe. Whatever it is, right? Whether it's, how you're supposed to live, who you're supposed to be, what you're supposed to believe. It's constantly in that space of, okay, enough now. And that's what pushed me to this thing about, but dude, like, human beings are amazing. We're the result of like millions of years of evolution, and we're on this planet. Like, where did all this come from? And it can't be as simple, right? So I started doing research. I started doing research into how the mind works, how people's belief systems are formed, how our habits are formed. And the more you research, you realize, man, there's a whole bunch of shit that you don't know. And that's when I realized that the capacity of a human being to transform or become something else is truly remarkable. But there has to be the right cocktail, that right mix, that right balance of everything aligning. Now, some people might call it luck. I don't think luck exists, but I think that circumstance, environment, your personality, your mental state, everything, if these things sort of get to that right mix, then we are capable of amazing things, right? So um, I don't believe only hard work is going to make something work. I believe that there is a combination, right? And that combination needs to align. And so then I started thinking about, okay, I'm this shy kid who gets really anxious when talking to more than two or three people. What if I could be somebody else? Like it was inspiration from all those 80s cartoons and comics and stuff like that. Like, what if I could be somebody else? What if I didn't have to be me? Um,
Mhm.
Now, some people might say that that's running away from my authentic personality, and I don't think so. I think it was about finding a different part of my personality.
All
And
right.
so then I started getting into the whole space of, I started reading news at a radio station because that was easy for me because, I didn't have to be in front of people, just inside a room. And I started, experimenting with, doing voiceover things and announcing. And then I got into the whole comparing thing. And then I realized that once i once I channeled this different personality, that I was able to do other things without the inhibitions that held me back, right? Without these anxieties, without these fears, without these things, and I could apply this alternative personality to these things. And that was the root of understanding that people are capable of great transformation. Um, so for me, I mean, outside a professional setting, the personal setting, I still have a lot of social anxiety because at that moment I'm not a coach, I'm not a trainer, I'm not a compy, I'm not a speaker. I'm just a dude who's meeting a bunch of other people and like, what do I say? How do I say it? How am I going to interact with these people? What sort of conversations am I going to have? Those anxieties still come up, but I'm able to draw on other parts of my personality and say, okay, so in this situation you're like this, so maybe you could transform yourself into being like this. So the approach I take with a lot of my clients is, okay, whatever happened in the past, it exists. Like, you don't need to run away from it, you don't need to diss it, you don't need to get over it. Whatever, it's there. But let's transformatively look to who you want to become in the future. And dude, that's like anything. It's anything. As long as you can get that cocktail or that combination right. So to answer your question very simply, who I was as a kid was probably the polar opposite of who I am now. But that doesn't
Mhm.
mean that that personality is gone. It means that there are different personas that coexist.
Fahad, just to dig a little bit deep into that conversation, uh, you talked about there were two things that I was very intrigued on, which was curiosity and also having anxiety when you go on stage. So my first question would be towards curiosity. So the Fahad Farouk we know now is a transformative coach, and you follow on those lines of motivating people and inspiring, and that is sort of how your lifestyle is around now. But do you think your curiosity could drive you into like tackling into different fields of life and like different avenues of life as you go on and as you age? Do you think your curiosity would drive you to find something else and just keep trying to find something new? Because I sort of from our conversation, what I understand is your curiosity has driven you to believe that all right, humanity can evolve, and the evolution of mindset itself can push you to like become something much more. So I'm just thinking, like, would this curiosity drive you into like trying more things in life in the future, or are you happy with what you have right now?
No, I think by all means that humanity's greatest asset is like we are constantly thinking, what if? Right? We're thinking, shall I try this? Shall I? What will happen if I do this? And every modern device that we are using right now is a result of that. And think about us as babies, man. That's how human kids learn, right? They try, they touch, they feel, like that. That's it's part of who we are. We are constantly seeking, looking, checking, and I think that's something that we should never try to curb or get rid of. That's something that we should like foster and harness. And there's never a right answer, man. Like whatever you think you're doing the best, there's always a better way. Like you're good, you're great, you're amazing, but there's a better way. There's always a better way. And
All
I
right.
don't mean being, I don't mean like, like a rabid dog, constantly like, what is that better way? But I mean, there's a sense of, okay, this is enough for me, but understand that if you ever choose to think, okay, this is not enough, of course, you have the capacity to, curiously explore more. That being said, you have to also understand because, it can be very exhausting. You have to understand, okay, I know there's more, but I'm just going to stop here because I'm content with this. So
Mm-hmm.
it is about figuring out that balance rate. Like there might be some people who think I'm never going to be satisfied. I'm going to be constantly satisfied. Like, dude, go ahead, man. If that's your thing, by all means, do it. And then there might be some people who are like, I know there's more, but I'm just content here. I'm just going to wait here for a while. But there's a third group who's like, there is nothing else, and this is all there is, and I'm just going to stay here. That is the most dangerous group. So the other two, I'm going to explore, or I know there's more, but I'm going to stay, versus being completely ignorant to like, that's all there is. That is not a place that I'd ever be in, I hope. But the other place is, yeah, constantly keep exploring.
Fahad, like in terms of anxiety, now I'm pretty sure like you have become now quite comfortable with going on stage. But I remember reading this one. Actually, back in school, I was into computing as well, and one of my teachers told me once that a study showed that like people were afraid of public speaking more than they were of death. And I want to know that does that anxiety still exist? Like when you go on that big stage, do you still get that feeling like, all right, how am I going to do it? Or is it like, have you just adjusted to it over time?
You'll be surprised that when I go on stage, just before I go on stage for anything, right, whether it's a talk or a hosting thing or whatever, dude, the amount of energy I have coursing through my veins is outrageous. Right? There is no anxiety because I know, like, I don't know if this is psycho or what, but I have all these songs playing in my head, like, from The Greatest Showman, like, This is the Greatest Show, or the Queen's Don't Stop Me Now, or, there are all these tracks playing, and I go into this like weird zone where, like, man, I can't wait to get out there and do my thing. And it's not anxiety anymore. It's like, how can I make this better? How can I make this more engaging? How can I make them think, wow, how can I do those things? But it's very strange. So I finish that and I come off the stage and say there are like some people in the audience who I want to talk to or interact with. Then like there's that anxiety comes up, right? Because like, holy shit, like what am I supposed to say now? Right? I'm not the dude on the stage. So public speaking fear, yes, is one of the biggest fears in the world. And there are different ways to tackle it for different people. But I think once you change the perspective on it, for me now, it's a rush, it's a kick, it's like a drug. And then the context of it is completely different. It's not something that I fear, it's something that I miss and I look forward to. And it's like, if like anybody who's ever computer or whatever, you just know that feeling, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's hard to explain, but it isn't anxiety anymore for sure. It's a different rush.
No, I can totally relate to that because I remember, I'm not sure if you remember this, but it was in 2018 at a Youth Speak Forum in Asia Pacific Conference. It was at BMICH. And I
Oh yeah,
remember
it's a big one. I remember. Yeah.
yeah. And I remember you were hosting, and then you started off with The Greatest Showman, and you had people like raise their hands, and I mean, I could literally feel that energy like right there, like, and I really know like what you're talking about, and I'm imagining being the guy on stage who fires up the people. That is just something else, so remarkable. All right, going on more into the questions. Fahad, like when I was having a look at your website, I found four key values which you discussed about combining wisdom with energy, coloring outside the lines, stubborn persistence, and being the energy. So, what I want to know is like, the, how do you describe these values, and what was actually the thought process when you were thinking about this, and how did it come to you? And at the same time, like how applicable or how do you apply this into real life? These values that you have defined.
That is, it is how I choose to live, right? So if we go back to this, so it all starts with being stubbornly persistent because A lot of people say if you have the willpower, you can do it. I disagree. I think if you have the willpower, you can start it. But willpower is not going to help you to do it, right? Persistence consistently is going to help you to do it, right? So uh,
Mhm.
I mean, we know millions of people who start to go to gym, who start diets, who start to study, who start something, and I'm going to do. They start, but after a while, because willpower is a diminishing resource, after a while you're like, I can't do this anymore, and then you're like, I'm going to do it tomorrow. Some procrastinations kick up, or you start justifying the process and stuff like that. So you've got to be persistent and you've got to be stubborn about it. Like you've got, those kids who are stubborn, like eat no. You're going to, no, I'm not going to. Why? No, I just don't want to. You flip that stubbornness, right? You bring that stubbornness and like, I'm just going to do it. Like, I don't want to do it. I don't like to do it, but I know that overall it's good for me. So I'm going to stubbornly try to persist and do it, even though I hate it, because I know at the end of the road, there might be something here, right? So that's what the stubborn persistence is about. Um, the overall other thing is that I think that if you look at anything, for something to move or work or turn or heat, or it requires energy, right? Like for anything to basically happen, it requires like energy is the source, right? It's the fuel to anything. And then I saw myself as, if I introduce a perspective to someone, that's introducing a new energy to them, right? If
Mhm.
I'm on stage speaking, let's say, if I'm doing something else, like the energy I exude to the audience. So like remember that at the youth speak thing, I saw all those people there. I think there were like definitely a lot of people there. And I was like,
Mhm.
okay, how is one person going to give these hundreds of people energy, right? How are you going to feel that energy? And for me, whether it's the things I do or say, it's about introducing that energy to give you that spark to hopefully start something. I mean, it's not going to sustain because that's up to you, but can I be that little bit of heat or that little bit of friction or that little bit of kick to give you that start, right? And then for me, it was about, okay, this energy is not enough. I can't just be the energy, but I need to bring some cerebral thought to it. I need to bring something that people connect with. And that's where this, combining wisdom with energy comes in, because I will introduce perspectives and angles to you that make sense in ways that you didn't think of before. And I will give it to you in a way that gives you some energy to try and implement it in some way. Um, so for me, it's about trying to figure out what's a different angle to look at a person or look at a problem or look at some sort of thing that people think are unsolvable, and how do you inspire them to sort of be stubbornly, like stupidly stubborn about it, and then try and get something done, try and make a change, as long as they think it's something that's good for them. So
Mhm.
it's how I bring it to real life is that every interaction that I have with anybody, whether it's like a phone call, a conversation, a message exchange, an interaction, a training, a coaching, whatever, like I will bring something that you don't currently have, because that's what I'm here for. You don't need me here to tell you shit that you already know, right? You go to somebody
Mhm.
else, you talk to yourself for that. But how can I bring something new that'll help you have that aha moment, or that'll help you have that, okay, let me try this moment, and how can that inspiration be sustained? So like if anybody asks you like how you doing, everybody says I'm good, all right, not bad. How am I doing? Amazing, man, amazing. I'm having a shit day. That's okay, I'm still amazing. Even that, for someone's like, holy shit, man, the world is going through COVID, all this crap is happening, why is he saying he's amazing? Like maybe I'm not really amazing, but just put it out there. It's just, I don't know, it's just about trying to be a bit different, I guess.
And I think I was like listening to this podcast once of Jay Shetty, where he was talking about gratitude and about how you can practice. Like, let's say you have two friends and you invite them for a party, and once they go back home, one friend texts you back and he's like, "Hey, I had a good time. That was a good party." And another friend's like, "Hey, I had an amazing time. I really needed this, and this was something very essential." And the feeling that it's good to give gratitude, but it's also very nice to receive gratitude. And I think that's I think when you talk like that to people and when you practice that value, people really feel grateful, and that compassion is being shared a lot. So I
and
really
and
relate with how you do. Yes, go ahead, Fad.
sorry. Added to which the language we use to communicate that intention is important. So they were both saying that, they enjoyed it. But one dude was like, hey, thank you, I had a good time. But the other dude was, oh man, that was amazing. I had a great time. I really appreciate you for him. So they're saying the same thing, but the words gives you a different vibe, right? And that's so important because there are expectations when people talk to someone that these are the words they're going to use. For example, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's lovely to have you here. Versus, hey guys, what's up? How's it going? Now, there might be various situations where you can't use the fully informal, hey guys, what's up? But if you ask the question, is this a situation I can use it in? Then by all means use it, right? Because that vibe, that energy, that whole scene that you bring to any situation is really important. And don't misunderstand me. I don't mean like be all loose, cool, and informal in every situation, but try and see what are the alternative ways that you can bring a different perspective to anything that you do.
All right. So Fahad, let's just make the podcast a bit interesting now. I think we're going on we're going on a good
Bingo.
deep conversation. But let's bring back some energy. So we're going to go into the rapid fire section, and I'm going to ask you a series of questions, probably a choice, and just you can give me a quick answer about what it was or what it is or your choice. So the key is you have to be fast, so you can't take a lot of time to think. Okay, first question. What is the funniest comment you got from an audience member in your sessions?
Oh man, like you mean funniest in terms of funniest like in a like insulting me way or just in a funny way?
How about both?
Damn. So that's a tough one because I always try to turn insults around. I think that's what you're supposed to do. And so I always make fun of myself before they make fun of me. So if you say I'm saying something and I mess up, right? So like I will accentuate it. So before they can laugh at me, I've laughed at myself. And I think that's the best way to go. But one of the funniest things people have ever said is, so this usually comes from the sound guys because when I go on stage, I yeah, I'm like all there, and then the sound guys are like taking their pieces out, like "Kya gahan done with the mic hi karti ho." Sorry, that is something I get a lot. I get that a lot.
Oh my God. All right. That was cool. That was cool. Okay. So if you can go back in time to meet someone who is currently dead, who would it be and why?
Dude, I don't have one person. I have several people I want to meet, man. I want to meet Freddie Mercury. I want to meet Muhammad Ali. I want to meet Nikola Tesla. I want to meet these three people, and I want to like, dude, I want to have deep conversations with them in terms of not even. I just want to meet them. If I could meet Ali, Nikola Tesla, and Freddie Mercury, dang, dude, oof, great.
I'm very much surprised, still like when people look at Ali, what they think is like, okay, Ali, greatest fighter of all time, but he was one of the best trash talkers in the game. Like when he would speak, my God, he could just get into the mind of another person. That
And
was
it
just
was
incredible.
intelligent, dude. He wasn't just talking shit, but it was like intelligent, like apart from the stuff that if like on YouTube, there's lots of stuff where he was talking about the civil rights movement, and a lot of the things he said was said in such a, of course, it was aggressive, but it was so personable that his intelligence was like next level, and
like totally incredible. Like even recently, I was reading something about him, and it just shows like the kind of characters that lived in that era, especially Freddie Mercury. And at that time, it was so different because right now, like you have the tools and you have the platform to be very outspoken, but at that time when you didn't really have quite a lot of resources, being outspoken itself was something much strong, and that was like really interesting. All right. Going back to the question. So what is the best compliment you've received in your life?
the best compliment. Whew. Oh man, I'm gonna sound like a really vain shithead if I start remembering. No, I'm not going to say. Of course, I can remember a few, but I'm not going to say anything because that would be terrible. That would be like, "Ah, muh mein mat young idiot" type of. No, I can't. I can't remember any compliments. I can't.
Just go ahead with one. Anything. Come on.
Okay, so um, There's one compliment that always stuck with me. It's not like a big thing, but where someone said that if I ever look back on my life and pinpoint a moment that changed its path, it's this conversation with you. Like,
Oh.
that's pretty cool.
All right. What is the most embarrassing situation that you've ever faced during a training session?
Dude, man, this story. So, um, I didn't pay a lot of attention in school, right? And
Okay.
like because like speaking Sinhala for me for a time was hard, but now I've taught myself and I speak Sinhala very well. I'd like to say, but I was at this training program once, and it was an outbound training, and then all these people they had done something right, and I was playing a video back to them, and I was saying like this is how spectacularly shit you guys were, and then one of the participants was like, oh, අපි නිකන් ආණ්ඩි හත් දෙනාගේ කැඳ හැලිය වගේ. And I was like, I never heard this. Like, I was like, what is this? Right? And I mean, later somebody else told me the story. Right? I was like, so what is this? I never heard of it. I was like, but I was like in train mode. Like, I was like, oh, hurry, hurry. ඔයගොල්ලෝ නිකන් ආණ්ඩි හත් දෙනාගේ රැළිය වගේ. And then he like, what are you on about, dude? And then there are like 40 participants are looking like, what the hell is Andi Haddenage Rallier? And then I hadn't heard about Andi Haddenek or a Kandahelier, and I didn't know what this was. But then the rest of the trainers in my group, they were like at the back of the room and they were looking at me and they were laughing their ass was off. They're like, dude, you have been saying some stupid shit that nobody understands, but because you're the trainer, saying with such confidence, they're just, they're also completely staring at you. But like what I said made no sense. But then later I found out what the story was, and it's like, yeah, no, it was very embarrassing.
So was it that moment that triggered you into learning Sinhala like much better?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I studied for like 11 years in Sinhala, man. But that Sinhala was just, if I could just remember stuff, it was good enough. But to to fluently speak it was something that was not very natural to me. So then I made myself learn. That's another part of transformation, right?
You get put into the moment and then the moment causes you to do something. All right. If you can have a superpower that you desire, what would it be?
Whoa, time travel.
Ooh, that's nice.
Time travel would cover everything, dude. Like, I mean, because I have a curious mind, I want to go back as much as possible, right? And see, can I figure out where it all started, or can I see where it all started? Like, how many billions of years would I have to go back? But that being said, I could also travel into the future, and by then there might be tech for flying and freezing my brain and all those things. So if you pick one superpower, I guess like you pick something boring like flying or mind reading or whatever, you're just limited to that. But if you could just travel the spectrum of time, because human beings are going to create a whole bunch of shit in the future. They are, because we never stop, right? I think that you can go to different points in time, and then those other powers that you think that would be cool to have, those probably exist there.
Yes. I think if you look at superpowers, I think the two most important would be time travel and teleportation. Like, especially if you're a busy person, I think teleportation would be like the thing for you. All right. What is your favorite way to spend your free time?
See, when you run your own business, do you ever have free time? Because I mean, all time is free time. Because I don't report to anybody. I don't have a boss. Like, so if you wake up today and decide, okay, today is just Netflix day, it is Netflix day. But while I'm doing that, am I thinking about all the work I have to do? Like right now, after this, I can decide between making a proposal or, chilling and doing something else. But because I'm not one of those people who is like, I want to live life. I don't want to be, work, relax. For me, life isn't that. It's very fluid, right? It's a mix. I will ensure that there is cash flow, but I will also ensure that I have ways to spend it. So for me, that question doesn't sort of apply, because I think all time is free time and all time is work time. And if work doesn't feel like work, then essentially you're just living.
All right. Fahad, so just wrapping up the rapid fire questions. So you talked about Netflix. So what was the last show or movie you watched on Netflix?
I the last one I watched on, dude, I'm for the sixth time. I think I was watching Avatar: The Last Airbender.
All right. Okay. So we're going to jump back into the main questions, and this is something that I even wanted to pick up from like you said that you wanted to meet Ali, you wanted to meet Tesla, you wanted to meet Mercury. So I know this. I know that you are inspired by this quote of Nikola Tesla, which is, "If you want to find the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration." And I want to know, like, actually what this quote truly means to you, because this can have different kinds of meanings and different interpretations for different people. But what does it mean to you, and how do you incorporate this? How do you live this quote? And how do you think that through your message of transformation and leadership, how do you inspire people to live this quote?
You're absolutely right, Arfan. There are different meanings to this, right? For some people, it's all about crystals. For some people, it's about some spiritual entity. For some people, it's about God. For some people, it's about the universe. But for me, that quote is about uh, the person, right? So if you talk about uh, frequency and vibration, it is the language you speak, the thoughts you share, the acts you carry out. That's your frequency and vibration, right? So, I mean, we're all matter, and as matter, we are constantly vibrating. And then our actions is just extended units of carbon. Like we are just a whole bunch of atoms, right? So for me, frequency and vibration is what you do, what you say, how you say it, the thoughts you contribute, the conversations you have, the things you share, the things you like, the ideas you put out. That's your frequency and vibration. And the energy for me is the intensity at which you do it. But are you going to be like a layman? Are you just on the surface contributing to things, or are you like deeply contributing to things? So for me, the energy is the intensity you put to something, while frequency and vibration is like your wavelength or the thoughts you put into something. Um, I don't discount the fact that, I mean, we don't know what's out there. I'm an atheist in the sense that I don't believe in like there's this, one God. I don't believe in like this heaven and hell thing. But I also think that like we need to ask questions in terms of we don't know, right? We don't ever know. And if anybody claims to have answers 100%, then that's a red flag because like, where's your evidence? What do you know? So my mind is always open. The probability of some things are very low. The probability of some things that a lot of people in the world take for like for certain are very low. And if you ask people why they believe certain things, because okay, my parents believed, or I've heard about it, or there's no other way. This has to make sense, right? So instead of going to the simplest explanation, you should let your mind wander and maybe go to like alternative places and alternative explanations. Is what I think. So for me, those three words mean your thoughts and your actions and the intensity at which you apply those things.
All right. Fahad, like something very interesting that I picked from your website was that in your website you've stated that you lost your weight from 105 kilograms to 69. Now this is something that like I've seen a lot of videos online and I've seen a lot of people talk about this, and but personally, as someone who tried weight loss, I know it's tough. It's an impossible journey, and I just want to know, like, how do you find that inspiration to do this? Because I'm pretty sure like a lot of our listeners right now, especially the young people who are listening to this, can really learn something from this. So how did you find that? Because there are a lot of ways online in which you can lose weight, but I think the thing with weight loss or just with doing anything itself is finding that energy and finding that motivation and making sure it's consistent. How did you find this inspiration, and what is that motivation?
I struggled. I still struggle. I'm not, my body is not where I want it to be. I'm still struggling, which is why I say willpower doesn't work. You need persistence. But a lot of people don't connect with why they want to lose weight, I think, because whatever you're doing now is very comfortable for you, right? If you're eating unhealthily and you're not working, that's because it's comfortable, right? If it was uncomfortable, you wouldn't do it. Okay. So When they say lose weight, they think about, eating healthy or going to the gym or whatever. It's about doing something that's uncomfortable, right? Your mind is not going to get you to do it for long because it's uncomfortable for me. Your brain is like, it can't rationalize it. Like, why would you leave something that's working? Why would you leave this comfortable lifestyle? And there seemingly is nothing wrong. And do something uncomfortable to attain weight loss, right? But why? And then there's a little voice, no, it's good, no. I want to look good, no. But that isn't as loud as hey, this is uncomfortable. That isn't as loud as that. So for me, it was about finding a voice that was louder than the discomfort. It is about finding a cause or a purpose or a thing that was louder than, okay, this is uncomfortable. And for me, that was the fact that I wanted to look good without a shirt on. Right? It's something very primitive, it's very vain, it's very stupid, it isn't long term. But that was big enough to drive me. So when I woke up to go to the gym or work out or whatever, it wasn't because I wanted to lose weight. It was because I wanted to look good without my shirt. When I went to a buffet at a hotel and it was like, all this amazing food and dessert and I didn't touch it, it was not because I was on a diet. It was because I wanted to look good without it. So I had like a compelling reason. So anybody who's trying to lose weight, you ask them why. I'm a little bit overweight. That is not a reason to lose weight. Why do you want to lose weight? No, I don't want any health complications later. That is not a compelling reason for you to lose weight. You need to find that thing that's pushing you to that place. Where you're trying to get into that, that trouser size, you're trying to get in that way. Find that one goal that has a number, right? And then push yourself to that. And that's the thing that's going to keep you going, specifically in terms of weight loss I'm talking about, right? Now, I'm not an expert on diet or exercise. I'm not. There are lots of amazing experts out there, right? And you should reach out to them. But for you in your brain, unless you figure out that, okay, what's this reason that I need to move? What's this thing that's going to push or pull me to it? You've got to figure that out. And then every day becomes about that. It's not about waking up early. It's about waking up to look good without a shirt on. It's not about, eating healthy. It's eating the food that will help me to look good without a shirt on. You understand what I mean?
Yeah, totally, Fahad, totally. And I think it's very interesting in the way like you've put it, because a lot of times how we try to make these goals very generic. We're like, I want to be healthy and I want to be this, but in your case, you actually you quantified your goal, and it was easy for you to like actually see that, okay, am I achieving this goal and I'm getting closer to it, because you can't really know. I personally believe that you can't really know if you actually are healthy. I mean, you could do all the diets in the world, but there could be something that is internally not making you healthy. So yeah, I really relate to what you said. All right. So Fahad, like I want to go to my final like segment. Like I want to go to the final segment, and what we normally do with the episode is we give a space for our guest speaker to talk to share some thoughts with the young people. And what I know is like especially in today's day and age, like the topics that we talked about, motivation, finding that energy, being persistent. These are a lot of things that young people constantly and consistently struggle with today, because it's very easy to find that motivation, but it's not very easy to stay consistent. That it's not very easy to like keep going with it. So I really want to know, like from your perspective, you being a life coach, and you being someone who pushes people to believe that they can be much better. I want you to take this time to share a message with our listeners today as to how they can keep achieving what they want, and just how important it is to find that energy, and also to live your values as well. So Fahad, this space goes out for you, and I want you to share your message with our listeners.
Thank you. I'll ask you this question, right? To anybody who's listening. The average life expectancy for a Sri Lankan, or for anybody, is like, say it's about 70 years, right? 70 years of your life. Assume when you're listening to this, you're about 20 years old. at least 20, right? So 70 minus 20, that's 50 years left, right? Um, from that 50, say you spend another, say, 15 years as an old person who's like, trying to get by, whatever. So then you're down to 35 years, right? From that 35 years, say you want to get married and have a kid is like a 20-year project in this country, right? So from that 35, you're down to another 20 years now, right? From that 20, say you're going to spend some time, just doing, sorry, you're down to 15 years, sorry. You spend that time doing some mindless stuff or whatever, right? Just going about, you spend about 5 years of your life doing that, so you're down to 10 years. I'm not saying that the other years that I mentioned, you can't work on yourself, but effectively, you have less than 10 years to just solely 100% focus on yourself without any distractions, right? In the years bringing up kids and working and being old, you can work on yourself, but there are other priorities as well, right? So essentially, even though you're thinking I have the rest of my life, you probably only have a solid 10 years to 100% dedicatedly work on yourself if you do that math, right? So you might think, hey, I'm just 20, I'm just 25, I have my whole life ahead of me. Yeah, you do, but there are going to be other shit that's going to be taking your attention and your focus. So from the rest of your life starting now, if you have only 10 years to work on yourself, think about the past 10 years, right? Think about how quickly it went by. Think about how little you've done, right? So just like the past 10 years went by, this other 10 years is also just going to go by. Okay. And if you have only 10 years to 100% work on yourself without any distractions, the question is, how badly, how, in what intensity, with what energy, with what focus are you going to attempt it? And that's where you will find your motivation. Not some dude telling you you can do it. Not some internet video saying this is how you should live your life. Those are not sustainable. But you realizing, oh, I only have 10 years to 100% focus on myself.
Wow. I was actually thinking from a sales perspective, you get to reflect on this as well. I think what is very important to take back, this is to our listeners, like what is very important to take back is like the life that you're going to live is going to be finite. So it's up to you to make sure that do you want that life to be infinite, and do you want to take those finite moments, and whether you want to create infinite memories, and whether you want to work on yourself and just make sure that when the day you go, you say that I've lived my life without any regrets. And I think that's just the objective of why people like Fahad exist, and the kind of message they deliver is this. So I really want the listeners to take this and always remember that it's up to you, and whatever you want to do, just take that moment right now and do it. And finally, to Fahad, I want to thank you very much for accepting our invitation and for being here with us on this podcast, because I was really, as a fan, as someone who has followed you over the years, I wanted to take this opportunity to have this podcast with you, and I'm very excited. And the conversation that we had was very humbling, and I learned a lot as well. So this is, as a listener who is listening to you, I know what it feels, and I'm very excited for when this goes on, and when people get to hear this conversation, they would feel inspired and they would actually start asking those tough questions. Thank you for being here today. I know you're super busy at the moment, and you're doing a lot of great things, and I want to wish you all the best for that. And thank you for taking this time for being with us today.
Thank you so much, Arpan. I enjoyed it very much. I love your line of questioning. I like how the conversation went. It was great. I also like your headphones. They're very cool. And hopefully that this message gets out to more people. And I will keep my eyes open to see how this podcast goes. Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much, Fahad. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that was it for our fourth episode of the Isaac in Sri Lanka through the Eyes of a Trendsetter podcast. And we've had an amazing lineup for today, and we had some amazing questions. So please enjoy and make sure that you are subscribed and you are in tune and listening for the upcoming episodes as well. As we mentioned it earlier, we are going to be having a lot of great speakers and a lot of different personalities coming on board to share their story and to talk about different topics that young people want to discuss about. That was it from me for this fourth episode. Enjoy, and we'll see you in the next one.